guys, and welcome to my review of chapter 844 of One Piece. This was a really good chapter, especially the ending where I cried a lot. I think I'm basically emotionally stable now, but we'll see if I start crying talking about this again. I think overall this chapter is really simple. I mean, most of the chapter is just Sanji beating Luffy up and makes a great point and all that. But I'm gonna get into the emotion and the characters later, and I'm gonna talk about what this does for the story, because that is ultimately what's interesting and what, like, overall what this chapter sets up. Because yeah, it's all good if we have emotional chapters, but we need to move the story along somehow. And the thing about this chapter is that apart from the fact that it's very sad, it makes me very happy to see the direction that Oda's taking this in. Because when Luffy by the end says that he won't move from that spot until Sanji comes back, and he's going on a hunger strike until Sanji cooks food for him again, that just takes Luffy out of the equation. That's what Oda did, and that's a very unusual move to take a story arc. And yes, you set up it around one of your main characters, but not the main character. And then you usually have the main character do something of extreme importance, which I'm still sure Luffy will do at some point. But he did take him out of the major conflict, which is saving Sanji from his family, from the Vinsmokes. And I love that so much, because we now completely got it off the table that Sanji will not save himself. And throughout the One Piece fandom, there has been, like, this is not only called the Year of Sanji, it's called Sanji's Redemption Arc and the Year of Sanji's Redemption and all that shit. And while I'm personally against that, because I don't think it's fair to call this a redemption arc, it does make it a whole lot better that Sanji does not need to be saved. I mean, he needs help, sure, there's no way he's getting out of this all by himself, but unlike in the Enies Lobby and Arlong thing, where Robin and Nami did play some role in that, but it is not nearly as much as what Sanji will need to do in this arc for him to be able to come back to his crew without anyone dying or his hands getting blown off. So I am a big fan of that development. Getting a little further into emotion, but still kind of sticking to the story, I guess, I want to talk about the hunger strike that Luffy's now on, and just in general I want to talk about the end of the chapter, just focusing on Luffy here. Because the things that Luffy said to Sanji was very powerful. I mean, starting off with the fact that he's going on a hunger strike, that is the most unlike Luffy thing you will ever hear. And especially after he just in the end of last chapter was like, I need meat. And he's in general, like, he's almost out of energy, like, he really needs the energy and he won't get it now because he won't eat. And that again is just like, even if he didn't stay put in the place where he was, he's still too weak to really do anything, which is gonna be really interesting now that Big Mom is coming for them. Depends on what's exactly going to happen and stuff like that, but there was a curfew last chapter where the people of Sweet City were going inside because Cracker was taken down, and I assume that they have told Big Mom of what happened to Cracker, which is also going to be interesting because the Vinsmokes are on their way to the castle, and it's going to be weird if they arrive and Big Mom is like on her weird killing spree. Either way, I think that's really nice. And I also think that the other very emotional and impactful part of what Luffy says is, of course, the end where he's like, without you I can't become the Pirate King. And if you remember, the last time Luffy declared that he wouldn't or couldn't become the Pirate King was when Ace died. Of course, that was for entirely different reasons. That was because he believed that he was too weak to do so. But now it's more a factor of, I need my crew members to do this, and you're one of them. I can't do this without you. And I mean, it kills me a little bit, because it's so hard for Sanji. It's so hard for Sanji. Lastly, just on Luffy, because I kind of want to round off on Luffy and then go to talk about Sanji and then Nami, who's really raising a lot of controversy. if you like just reading through my comment section, which I've been doing for the last 2 hours now, the like everything about Nami is just so people are having very strong and very different feelings about what her role and what she did in this chapter. But I'm gonna go back to this because I think after discussing with a couple of friends, I have come to a weird, satisfactory answer and maybe explanation of what she's doing, and I did change my opinion. For those of you who I discussed this with, I did change my opinion like 5 minutes ago, so you might have changed my mind. Either way, let's go back to Luffy, because that was actually my point with this, and I just spent like 30 seconds talking about Nami, if not more. I want to talk about the fact that for the last 700,000 chapters, ever since I started my channel actually, I have said that I wanted to see a return of Luffy being intelligent. Of course not intelligent in the Sanji / Robin / Nami / whoever the fuck is very smart manner, but in his own Luffy-ish right. And while I did request for that in the sense of him being being tactical in a battle, I think that the other part of Luffy's intelligence comes from his like emotional intelligence, and we've got that a lot in this chapter, because the thing is, I have seen a lot of, or like 3 people complain about the fact that Luffy basically just stood there, took the punches, didn't even defend himself. And I also saw another comment, which like I fully agree with, who said that this is basically what Luffy did back when Bellamy, when they first met Bellamy, so he was like, Zoro, we're not gonna fight, and then he just took the punches. Because there was no reason to fight. And he learned that from Shanks, and that's like a very big thing. Of course the situation is different because he's not fighting Bellamy, or he's not taking punches from Bellamy, who's like an asshole and what he said was wrong, and Luffy just disagreed with him, but there was no point in fighting because there was just no point. This is different because Sanji is his friend. Sanji is a person he does not want to fight. This fight is not consensual. Yeah, no one wants this fight to happen. And for Luffy to not fight back, it, how can I say this so that no one gets angry with me? It lets Sanji know that Luffy trusts Sanji's strength, and that he trusts that Sanji is making the right decision by not asking for help. And because at this point, when we end off the chapter, Luffy has taken a very strong beating. I questioned in my live reaction whether or not Sanji was using Haki. He obviously was. If not, he would not have been able to deal those attacks because Luffy is made of rubber. And fire does not hurt him in the way that Luffy is hurt now. Like, he would be burned, but he would not spill blood, which he does in this chapter. And Luffy at the end is like, fuck this, I am just gonna trust that you can get out of this your own, I won't leave. I've said this already. And I think also there's of course the line, which I think this was actually one of the things that broke my heart the most, when Luffy said, when you kicked me, with each kick I wasn't the one who was hurting, you were. I think that basically just sums everything up, that Luffy was taking that because he's getting the point across that he's trusting Sanji's strength, he's trusting Sanji's decision makings, but he's also suffering with Sanji, because I think at this point Luffy is understanding that there's something beneath the surface. Everyone in the whole world is aware of Sanji lying at this moment. Luffy knows it, Nami knows it, Sanji knows it, the Beansmokes know it, we know it, Noda knows it, everyone knows it. There's no one in the world who's believing anything that Sanji says. Which means that Luffy must understand that Sanji is lying for a reason. And he cannot understand this reason because he's missing information. They all are. No one knows about the hostage situation. No one has apparently seen that he's wearing fucking handcuffs. And even if they did, do they know that they will explode? They understand, or at least Luffy does. He understands that there's something that he doesn't know. So he has to sit back and just accept that Sanji is making the right choice. So, okay, I'm gonna continue on to why it's important that Sanji is lying. Because I just said that everyone knows, including the Beansmokes, they all know that Sanji is lying. And you might, like, think that, well, if the Beansmokes know that Sanji is lying, then what the fuck is the point? Because the point of lying is to make someone think something else, something that's not true. And by lying, Sanji does do this, but in a completely different way. Like, it's not that anyone's believing that he doesn't want to be with the Straw Hats, because even if they did, when he said so, he literally broke down crying in the carriage, so there's no way they would believe him, right? But what Sanji does here is really smart. He knew from the get-go that he needed to lie, and he stuck with lying, even though there's, like, no point anymore. Or actually there is, that's kind of what I'm arguing for here. The point of Sanji lying is that this is exactly what the Beansmokes want. Like, let's say he just explained the situation, like, this is how it is, you can't save me, so just leave. Let's say he said that. The Beansmokes wouldn't really be on board with that, because even though the outcome would be mostly the same, there's still a chance that Sanji might go against him, because there could be like this little sprinkle of hope in Sanji that his friends could save him. And what the Beansmokes want is for Sanji to be the perfect puppet. They want him to do exactly as they need him to act, and they, in this situation, wanted Sanji to lie to the Straw Hats, or to Luffy and to Nami. So that's the whole point. The whole point of this is for Sanji to make the Beansmokes think that he won't do a single thing that goes against their wishes. And of course you might argue, yes, well, he doesn't have a choice. There are people on the line, Seth is on the line. Sanji's a smart character. He will probably, or he has the ability, I believe, to be able to do something without the Beansmokes knowing. But the less they suspect that he might do this, the more likely he will be to get away with that. So that's the reason for Sanji lying, and at this point everybody, or not everybody, but we as the readers should be able to get this, I feel like. I mean, I could be interpreting this wrong, but still. There is still a point in Sanji lying, even though everyone knows he's lying. Let me move on. One last thing before I start talking about Nami. I have been pretty consistent with saying that I am not a fan of this being compared to Annie's Lobby, and I have been comparing it to Arlong Park. Now I want to take back that statement and just not compare it to any of those arcs. I mean, we still have some of the parallels, of course. There's no denying that there are parallels, but there are very significant differences in these two arcs. And Oda does, like, just the thing with having Sanji save himself is just one of the big factors in why this arc is different, because the girls had to be saved by Luffy. Another big factor is the fact that Sanji knows, like, no one can tell me that Sanji is not aware of the fact that no matter what he does, no matter what the hell, like, he could kill someone in cold blood in front of his friends and they would still like him, want to take him back. There's no way that Sanji would not be accepted back to the crew. There's no way that Luffy would let go of him that easily. He says so in this chapter, and Sanji knew that before he came. Sanji might have been shocked that Luffy was there last chapter, but I think that was more because, like, more as in the moment he was like, okay, I didn't expect you to come right now, and I did expect maybe you'd have a little more faith that I'd do this, or just, like, it was bad timing. Could have been a lot of reasons. I think bad timing is, like, one of the best ones. So basically, Sanji knows that there's no escaping this crew. Like, he's in it for life now, unless he actually wants to leave. There's no way Luffy is letting anyone leave who doesn't want to leave. That just doesn't happen, especially after the time skip. Because that's, like, one of the main differences between the two main differences between Arlong Park and East Lobby and this is, one, it's after the time skip. They've been through so much. The whole point of the time skip was to never be separated again, and there's no fucking way anyone would leave after the 2-year time skip, because that would be weird. The second reason is just because Sanji was there through Arlong Park and Enies Lobby. Had this been Brook, it might have been a little bit different because he wasn't there. But this is Sanji. He was there from the beginning, and I'm just gonna quickly, yeah. He was there from the beginning. He knows all this. He knows the lengths Luffy and the others will go to save one of their friends. They literally declared war against the world government for Robin. Which leads me into my next point. Again, just before I talk about Nami. There are a lot of people who have been saying that Sanji does not trust Luffy's strength. I really think that's a misinterpretation of what's going on here. Because Sanji can fully trust Luffy's strength, but still be aware of the fact that if Luffy starts punching his ways through these problems, the problems won't be solved. And this goes back to the line again, because again, Sanji can't just tell Luffy, oh, by the way, hostage situation. The Vinsmokes wouldn't let him do that, of course. It's important for them that the things that they have over Sanji remain hidden, because that's the easiest way for them to keep manipulating him and to keep other people from saving him, because they don't know what's going on. And Sanji, the thing with Luffy coming to get Sanji when he was surrounded by his family was just the worst possible timing, because that's the one time where Sanji cannot be saved. Kind of. You know what I mean, right? So I don't think that it's Sanji not trusting Luffy's strength. I think it's the fact that he needs Luffy's strength to be put to its best of use, or just to not be misused, if that makes any sense. Because why the fuck wouldn't Sanji trust Luffy's strength? He's seen everything. He knows Luffy. He believes he will be the Pirate King. He has his full trust in Luffy. But there are just times when you don't have enough information to act in the right way. And right now Luffy's in that situation. And by the end of the chapter, Luffy understands that. Okay, now let's talk about Nami. Nami, I'm just gonna put it aside. Nami is a big discussion factor in this chapter, because there are disagreements whether or not she was too emotional or she was just not acting rationally, because obviously, I think if she truly believes that Sanji is doing this even slightly out of his own will, she's wrong. And it's no lie. It's no secret that Nami's a very emotional person, and her being this emotional person could sway her to act in this way. And because she does say twice in this chapter, or once she says, Sanji, please stop. No, she does say that too. 2 times she says, Sanji, please stop, we get your point, just stop doing this. And by the end of the chapter, she does say, you went a little too far, even if you were just making a point, that was just, you crossed the line. And she says that to Luffy too, when he's yelling at Sanji's telling him all the things in the end there. So yeah, Nami is furious. There is almost no doubting that. On the other hand though, I want to point your attention to 2 times in this chapter. The first one is when Luffy tells Nami, not another word, Nami, don't make any excuses, whatever happens here, I'm fine with it. She has a very shocked and more than outraged look like she had in the previous panels. She looks terrified. And I think it's because she's understanding what, the point Sanji is trying to make by beating Luffy up. And of course she's not okay with this, but in her mind, somewhere, she must understand that there's no other way for Sanji to do this. But I also think that because this fight just keeps dragging on after this point, emotion might overtake her rational mind, because she does have a rational mind. She can be very rational when needed to, and she can be very emotional when emotion just hits her. And another point I want to talk about, let me just find it. Okay, so when Nami comes over to Sanji. Says, "Pardon me, Lord Sanji," then slaps him and basically says goodbye. Forgive me for being so rude or whatever the fuck. I think her expression is very, very interesting. I think, like, what makes this so interesting, and I'm really, like, I don't want to give an answer to anything right now because I have been thinking about Nami so much for the last 2 hours, you have no idea. But I do think that the way that this panel is set up, or these 5 panels are set up, and the way Nami expresses her anger is a little bit odd. Especially if you go to page 15 on Manga Stream, then the top left panel, where we have Yonji, I think it is. It must be Yonji. Yonji, he's like talking, and then you see Sanji and Nami in the background. I think it's so odd for there to be that pause without anything like beneath the surface going on. I think, like, I really, really think there's more going on. And at first I was of the idea that Nami or Sanji were communicating in some way, and Nami is playing next level or something. I might have to rethink that, but I think there's more to Nami's worth than this, because there's also the factor in her not calling him Sanji-kun, just calling him Sanji. And just like slapping him, because everything about these interactions between them just breaks everything that their relationship is built on. There's the suffixes that they used with each other, no longer used. The fact that Sanji is just eyeing her like she is the last person he wants to see. Another good point I want to make is, in regards to Sanji, is that in the last chapter, when all of his brothers did their higher dice, Sanji did not even have it in him to do so. There's of course the glare in the beginning of the chapter where Sanji just looks at her like, stop. And Nami also has a very interesting expression there, but I think that's mostly because of shock. And I just think, and then going back to breaking their relationship, because slapping him is not, like, how do I explain how I feel about this? Because I think what I feel about this panel is just so weird to me, because it's just a little bit off, because I understand the argument that Nami is emotional, and I understand the argument that she thinks that Sanji went too far, and the argument that just says that she's just not okay with the situation and that emotion is taking over her so that she won't be able to really think rationally. But at the same time, there's that part of me that knows that Nami understands Sanji better than anyone else. She must understand, because she was in the exact same situation. And on top of that, she from the get-go, like, in the anime, we're at So right now, and we're very soon getting at the part where we have the conversation between the Straw Hats where they're discussing what to do with Sanji. And in that chapter, Nami is not only worried and the only one who's very eagerly saying we should go save Sanji, but she also brings up the point that he might be in a situation he cannot get out of. She's the first one to say, yeah, Sanji left a letter saying that he would come back, but I don't think that's the case, because I got the feeling that he wouldn't be coming back to us. And again, emotion is a thing that's completely like overtaking her mind at this point, because she did just see Sanji beat up their captain, and that's of course not a pretty sight. But the point I'm trying to make with this is that there's something slightly off with the way that Nami is acting. And the fact that a lot of people are very disappointed with Nami in this chapter makes sense for me, but I think it's too early to judge her actions and the way she acted, because she must be very conflicted. I think this is a very good way to put it. She's very conflicted in how she should assess and what she should actually be feeling in this situation, because there is the difference between what your eyes are seeing and what you feel by seeing this thing, and then like in the back of your mind being like, okay, this might be awful, but there's literally no other way this could have gone down. So I just think that the way Nami acted in this chapter is very interesting, because I don't know, it's just, is anyone understanding what I'm saying here? Do you understand why I'm struggling to understand Nami? Because I actually, I have had so many discussions, like, I read this chapter for the first time like 3 or 4 hours ago, and I have had conversations with friends and with you guys in the comment section, and it's, yeah, yeah, let me just, also, because Nami does cry by the end here, but I do think that has more to do with the fact that Luffy is, making his very emotional speech here. But I just, again, because she said in the beginning of the chapter, Sanji, you can't really, like, believe the words that are coming out of your mouth. I think that Nami in this chapter is just conflicted between her rational mindset and her emotional mindset. And I think sooner rather than later, she will understand Sanji's side of the story. Because ultimately, what we get here in this chapter is 3 completely different views on what is going on. We have Sanji, who knows the truth. We have Nami, who can sympathize with Sanji, but is outraged by what is going on. And we have Luffy knowing that he can't understand, but putting his faith in Sanji. And just kind of leaving it up to him. Yeah. I think, ultimately, I might do another video based on what I either end up feeling when I have had a lot of, like, discussions with you guys, because I do tend, especially with chapters that are so vague in some aspects like this, I tend to change my mind after I've thought about it for a day or two and I've seen, like, a very varied amount of feelings and theories and whatnot. So I might on Saturday come back and make a video about this chapter and just on whatever topic I feel like I either didn't cover or I ended up changing my mind on. Because I really do think that with enough discussions I could change my mind about half the things I said in this review. Which, I mean, yeah. So yeah, I am gonna end up this video or whatever the hell it was here. Leave a like if you liked anything that I had to say. Leave in the comments below your thoughts on whatever I talked about in this review, and feel free to start a discussion, because if you hadn't guessed already, I really want you to give all your thoughts and opinions on various things in this chapter. And yeah, you can subscribe if you're interested. Yeah, until next time, bye!